send them to our email address, webinars@nova401k.com. Right next to questions, you're going to see an icon that appears to be a paper with a little paper clip. This is where you're going to find today's material in PDF form. If you aren't able to view it or click on the handout, go ahead and send us an email. We can provide you with that PDF. To view any of our webinars you may have missed and the recording of this session, you can follow us on our YouTube channel, and that is Nova 401k Associates, or visit our website, which is www.nova401k.com/webinars. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would now like to introduce from Nova's East Coast team, Assistant Team Leader, Lisa Dielman.
Thanks so much, Yvette. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this presentation. If you have watched this presentation from a prior year, this year there's not much difference than last year. So hopefully you're an old hat at this. But thank you to everyone who has joined, and hopefully this will be as informative as I would like for it to be for you. So just a basic disclaimer, the information in this presentation is general in nature and not to be intended for legal or tax advice. Please consult a qualified professional if you do need legal or tax advice. So the agenda today is we're going to go over the cybersecurity measures that Nova implements within our systems and why, the census request background, why we need it, the deadlines for Nova and the government, how to access our portal, plansponsorlink.com, the editing guide within the portal, and then we'll go over each and every step one by one of the project, and then finally some frequently asked questions, which most of those we go through during the presentation as well. So I'm going to make this real quick so we can get to, the good stuff, since we only have an hour. And a lot of bad guys within the last 5 years have started noticing how much money is in a retirement plan. And so they have been really working hard at trying to get all of our hard-earned money and savings so that they can just, do whatever they want with it, as bad guys do. So Nova has implemented many security measures on our end, as well as record keepers have implemented a lot of more security measures on their end to try and keep your money with you. Once a theft has been discovered, it's very difficult to get that money back. So it's easier if a check was written, because you might be able to catch it before the check is cashed. But most of us these days, when we request funds, we want it as an ACH or a wire so we can have it immediately, and it's really difficult to get it back. This kind of theft, believe it or not, is not included by fidelity bond insurance, fiduciary insurance, or E&O insurance. So, we all really have to do our part. Someone's saying they can't hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. Let me see. All right. Thank you.
I'll respond to that.
Arlene, that must be on your end. I'm sorry. This will be recorded though, so if y'all miss anything, you can get back to it when it's posted to our YouTube site. So Nova does request that any files with PII, personal identification information, there we go, PII, be sent to us securely. Okay, so that includes your census file that we're requesting, payroll files, address files, and whether you're sending it to Nova as the TPA or to your record keeper, just any W-2 forms, partnership K-1, Schedule Cs, please send them all either through our secure portal or secure encrypted email. So Nova's portal is plansponsorlink.com. If you are a contact on the plan within our system, then you have certain accesses to Plan Sponsor Link. And depending on what kind of contact you are, depends on what kind of access you have, whether it's full or partial. Then we also have an email encryption software that we use, Select. And so if for some reason you can't get into your portal for whatever reason, then we can email back and forth using this encrypted email. NOVA's policy is that every single NOVA employee have a quarterly mandatory training on cybersecurity and IT. And then we are required to change our main login passwords at least every 90 days for those that do not have two-factor authentication. In this day and age, most of the record keepers have two-factor authentication and require password changes at least every 90 days, if not sooner as well. And when I say record keeper, I mean the company that holds the assets of the plan. So Voya, John Hancock, Transamerica, Empower, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, any of those companies are the record keeper. So again, just try and make sure that you submit any of this PII type of information securely to NOVA and to your record keeper, and then we will do the same. All right, census requests. So if you are a tested plan where it is required that we do an ADP and or ACP test for your plan, we sent out the census request last week, around the week of January 6th, requesting your census data for the 2024 calendar plan year. Okay. Until we receive that census file, we will continue to send out monthly reminders. If you have a plan that is a safe harbor plan, profit sharing only, or another type of plan where it's not subject to ADP ACP testing, then that census request will be out this month. So by the end of this month, you will receive that email with the census request and the project for you to complete. We require the census because every retirement plan, most every retirement plan, there are the exceptions, require annual compliance testing. They also require us to look at the annual deferral limits and annual addition limits to make sure that it does not exceed the government limits set for the year. We also need the information to prepare the Form 5500 and Form 8955 SSA as applicable. Okay. So it is very important. We can't do the job that we're hired to do without that data. Big question, one of the most common questions we get is who needs to be reported on the census file? Every single employee that received a W-2 for the year that we're requesting. So for this year, 2024 plan year, we need every employee who receives a W-2 for 2024, okay? Whether they've terminated or not, whether they participate in the plan or not, we need them reported on the census file. We do not want any employees that are independent contractors paid via 1099. If they do not get a W-2, we do not want them on there if they are a 1099 employee. We also do need, for employees reported on the census file, owners of the company. So if you have an owner who is not paid W-2 wages, but instead they're going to get a Schedule C income or a Partnership K-1 income, we still need them on the census file. And we understand there won't be W-2 wages. And a slide later on will tell you how to handle those. So the deadlines. So NOVA provides deadlines because there are governmental deadlines for the IRS and the Department of Labor. Okay, so if you have a plan that has to have an ADP and or ACP test done, and those are tests that are done on the employee contributions and the employer match contributions. If those tests fail and refunds have to be done to some of the participants, the deadline for those refunds to be processed out of the plan is March 15th by the government. However, March 15th this year is on a Saturday, so we have one extra day, the Monday following. So this year we have March 17th. So yay, one more extra day. And then if you don't have a ADP ACP tested plan, we still have to test for the employee contribution or the deferral testing. And so we do have a deadline for those censuses because any plans that have excess employee deferral contributions for the year, again, the government sets a limit every year. And if there are excesses, they have to be refunded to that participant, and that deadline is April 15th. The government sets that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we just want to make sure that we're getting the information as soon as possible so that we can meet these government deadlines. And then the informational tax Form 5500 and Form 8955 SSA are due July 31st for calendar year plans. So it moves real quick the first half of the year so that we can get everything done on your plan that needs to get done. So again, Nova's portal is plansponsorlink.com, and you have to have this /Nova 401k. If you also are with Nova's sister company, AFS 316, they have a portal as well, and it's plansponsorlink.com /AFS 316. Okay, so there are two different portals if you are Nova and an AFS client. If you are a first-time user, you've never logged in before, then click on that and it'll shoot you a temporary password and get you set up to create your account. If you forgot your password, no one at Nova can give you that information. You have to just click on forgot password. They'll send you an email with a temporary password, and then it'll prompt you to create a new login. Your username is always the email address that Nova has on file for you. So if you've updated your email address and you have not informed Nova, then it will not work with your new email address. Okay, so please definitely keep us informed if your email changes for whatever reason. So once you're in, so it will prompt you, again, if you have to do forgot password or first time user, it will automatically prompt you to create a password. But at any time, if you would like to change your password, you can just click on this drop down arrow next to your name once you're logged in, and you can choose change password and go from there. Within the project is this editing guide. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go over it. It used to be a lot more difficult to understand what their symbols were, but they changed that, thank goodness, in the portal. So this is what it's going to look like when you get that email that says that we now are requesting your census file. This is what you're going to see when you've logged into your portal if you have been set up with access. If you log into your portal and you don't see this, then you do not have that access, and you definitely will need to contact your Nova account manager to find out why and what is needed to get you that access, okay? So it'll say the year that we're asking for, and then you just click on Begin Task. You'll see that there are all these steps to complete. Don't worry, it doesn't take that long for most of them. And after each task, you'll hit save, or each step you'll hit save, and it'll give you a green check mark once it's saved, okay, to let you know that you've completed that step. So for instance, this is what it's going to look like at the very beginning when you haven't even started anything. It just shows the arrows. Please note that there is this note button up at the top. So if at any time you're going through these steps and there's some information that you think would be very informative for your Nova account manager, where there's not just a place to put that information in the designated step, but you think it's very important to add, please click on Notes and enter that information. Your account manager will be able to read every note that you put in there, okay? All right, now we're gonna go through each step, all 9 steps, one by one. And this, it says 10 steps because the approval is the 10th step, okay? So that's pretty self-explanatory as well. Step 1 is the company contact. So again, this is pre-populated. This is what we have in our system. We are only asking for you to review it and make any revisions or additions as needed, and then hit save. So if everything is the same from what we have in our system, simply click save and move on to step 2, okay? Again, step 2 is pre-populated for certain items based on what we have in our system or what we have from the prior year. If you did do a census submission with Nova the prior year. The NAICS business code, we need that because it's put on your informational tax form 5500. And so we do need that information. And you are the best person to tell us what your business does, you know, what tax code is used. If you don't give it to us, we'll do our best guess, you know, but it is very helpful if you give that to us. Payroll provider and payroll frequency, it's also very helpful. Payroll provider, That way we know if the plan is eligible to sign up with NovaLink, which I'll get to in another slide later on, and stuff like that. Or if they have payroll integration, we can help answer questions about that with you on that. Payroll frequency, if your plan allows for loans, that helps us to be able to make sure that the loan that we are reviewing and approving is on the correct payroll frequency for repayments of those loans. So that's why those are needed. Step 3, principles. So this is incredibly important information for the compliance testing that we do. We need your complete ownership. Okay, it has to add up to at least 100% here. It can add up to more, because if you had an owner, Joe Smith, as of January 2024, he owned 10%. Well, Joe Smith decided to retire in March of 2024 and sold his 10% to Jane Smith. Well, we need that ownership of everyone at any time during the year that we're talking about. So in this case, 2024. So then it would be 110%, because Joe Smith sold his shares to Jane Smith, and that would be the type of information that we would want you to add a note here to your account manager. That's very important and very helpful for us if you go ahead and include that information. So if you are a nonprofit, publicly traded company, simply put that here under the owner name and 100%. It will not let you save this step if you have nothing listed here, okay? Also, if you have an officer that doesn't have ownership, we need that as well. So for me, Lisa Dielman, if I was an officer, vice president, but I'm not an owner, I should still be listed there, just as officer with 0% ownership. Again, this is incredibly important. If this is not correct, the compliance testing that we prepare will not be correct, okay? Okay, so going back to this step, if you have multiple companies or trusts, so outside corporations or trusts, please list the ownership by person within that entity or trust. Do not just put Nova 401k Trust 100%. We need to know who's included in that trust. Again, it's very important. It has to be by the person's name. And if there are multiple outside corporations or trusts that own it, we need all the people from all of the corporations or trusts that own it. Step 4, family relationships. Again, this is part of the non-discrimination testing. We're not trying to be all up in your business more than we need to be. We just need all the information to be able to do our work correctly. So if you have any employees who are direct family relationships to one of the owners of step 3, and they work at the company that's sponsoring the plan. So Lisa Dielman, if I'm an owner of Nova 401k, which I'm not, but if I was, and my husband is also an employee of Nova but not an owner, then I would list his name here. Okay, so we want children, including adopted children, spouses, parents, and grandparents. So any employees of the company that are related to any of the owners in step 4 need to be listed here in step 4. Again, if there are no employees who are related, it's a nonprofit, publicly traded company, then you can leave this step blank and hit save. That's all you have to do, okay? Other businesses. Again, this has to do with being able to do our job correctly. We need to know if the owners of the company that's sponsoring the plan, 401k plan, own any other businesses and or their spouses or children. And the reason we need to do that is because we need to know if we have a control group or an affiliated service group between ownerships of different businesses, because that could affect how the testing is completed. And then we need the owners that are for each of those businesses listed with at least 100%. Again, we are not trying to get more information out of you than what is required to do our job correctly for what we are hired to do. And if they don't own any other businesses, then leave it step 5 blank and hit save and move on to step 6. Step 6 is also pre-populated with all the people that we have related to the plan as a contact in our system. You can add new contacts, but you cannot delete them. So if a contact needs to be changed or removed, then you can click change request next to any of the contacts' names, and it'll send an email to your Nova account manager, and they will update it on our end, okay? But you can add new contacts, which is great. And if there is no changes needed, then hit save and move on to step 7. So steps 1 through 6 are pretty quick and easy to get through. The biggest hurdles that we have found are, if there are other businesses. So that could take a little bit of time. But just to put out there, you can finish steps out of order. So you can finish steps 1 through 4, skip step 5 till you get more information, go through 6 through 9, and then go back to 5. So you do not have to do everything in order exactly. You do not have to do everything all at the same time before you can log out. You can log back in and out and move step to step. So step 7, this is going to be one of the 2 questionnaires, and this is the longer one. But most of the questions are yes or no. Some of them are only need to be answered depending on how you answer a previous one. So even if you look at it and it looks really long, please just, it's not very long because it's yes or no, most of it. And some of them won't even pertain to your plan depending on the answers that you provide. So we're going to go through them. So lines 1 through 10 are asking about employer contributions. Do you want Nova to calculate a employer profit sharing contribution? Do you want us to calculate an employer match? Did you fund an employer match during the year? If yes, what was the formula you used? Was it dollar for dollar up to 3% or 50 cents on the dollar up to 6%? Something like that. So 1 through 10, again, it only pertains to you having to answer it if it pertains to what happened within your plan. If you do want Nova to calculate a profit sharing contribution, then you need to mark yes on number 1, and you need to provide the answers to 2 or 3. We had a lot of people leaving that information out last year, and it's incredibly important for us to be able to get that profit sharing calculation completed and get it to you timely as needed. So please make sure that you do answer those, but they are 1 through 3, and then the rest 4 through 10 are about the match and other things like that. Lines 13 through 17 only applies if the plan sponsor owners are a sole proprietorship or a partnership where they report their income on a K-1 or a Schedule C. So if your company is a corporation and the owners are paid W-2 compensation, then you can skip 13 through 17. I mean, there's 4 questions right there off the bat. But if your company does do a Schedule C for the owner, or there are partners that get K-1s, then we will need those questions answered. And Nova will need a copy of the partnership K-1s or the Schedule C as applicable as soon as they're available, including draft versions if those are available. We cannot move forward with compliance testing until we have that information of the owners as part of the plan. So the sooner the owners can get that information, or your CPAs can get that information to us, the sooner we can get our testing done and get you any kind of employer contribution allocations that y'all might request from us. Number 18 relates to if the companies are a control group or affiliated service group. We know what's in the plan document, what we have in there, whether it's a control group or an affiliated service group. But over the years, people will buy companies, owners will buy companies and not let us know. And so we don't know if something's changed and the company is now a control group or affiliated service group with other businesses. And so If you're aware that it is yes or no, please answer that, because we need to know if the information that we have is out of date. Which number 19 is associated with that, with the change in ownership. If any new companies were purchased or sold, then please let us know, and then add that note in there on this step. You can add the note of businesses that were sold or purchased if we don't already know about it. And does the company have another qualified plan? We ask this question when the plan first comes to NOVA and first gets created. But over the years, if they open up another plan, not with NOVA, because we don't administer that type of plan, we do need to know these things, because it could affect how the test is done for the plan. Number 21, this is a new question this year. It has to do with part-time, seasonal, temporary employees. Actually, it's not new. We had it last year. But basically, if you have any of those types of employees and the document is marked to exclude those types of employees, part-time, seasonal, or temporary, please answer yes. And within the actual census file, and I'll show y'all on a later slide, on the job classification column, please list if they're part-time, seasonal, or temporary, because that helps to ensure that we know that you've excluded them from participation of the plan. We don't have your payroll files to be able to see that these are part-time, seasonal, temporary. We rely on you to tell us this. So it's very important to mark them as that in the job classification field. And do you have, this is the new one, number 22. Do you have any employees who regularly work between 500 and 999 hours a year? And this has to do with that new long-term part-time rule from the Secure Act and Secure 2.0 that came out over the last few years from the government. And so we just want to make sure that if you do have any of those employees, we know who they are, so that we can make sure that they are being administered in the correct way per these acts of Congress. 23 through 24 is asking if your company maintains a cafeteria plan, Section 125 plan, employee-sponsored health savings account, any type of plan where your employees are allowed to pay premiums or make contributions into an HSA on a pre-tax basis. So visual, medical, dental, where they can pay the premiums on a pre-tax basis. That's what we need in the census file, and there is a certain line item for that, a certain field for those, the totals of all of those pre-tax premiums or contributions that those employees make to any of those types of plans. So if this is marked yes, but there's nothing on the census file, that's a red flag, and we're going to come back and ask you about that. And our last question for this step is, will you be requesting an extension, the company, a tax form extension filing? If you aren't sure if the company 2024 tax filing will be extended or not, just mark no, no big deal. If you already know that it will be marked extended, then please let us know. It just helps us to be able to understand when we might get the information that we need to complete our part. Step 8 is a 5500 questionnaire, and this is very short and sweet and to the point. Did you have any deposits, employee contributions funded late into the plan? Late meaning if you are a small filer plan where you do not have to have your plan audited, then you have 7 business days from the date the payroll, employee contributions were withheld from payroll to when they're deposited at the record keeper. If it was more than 7 days, then it is considered late, and we need to report that on the Form 5500 and do a self-correction of calculating lost earnings and funding those. It's a huge area for the Department of Labor to audit, so we want to make sure that deposits are not late, first of all, but we also want to make sure that if they are late, we report it and correct it so that it is done. Number 2 through 3 has to do with fidelity bonds. Please provide the bond coverage amount. If NOVA purchased the bond on your behalf, then we already have this data. And you can just put $1 if it's a required answer. I can't remember if it's required or not. If it is, just put $1 or whatever if you aren't sure, and then Nova will pull it in from the bonds that we purchased on your behalf. And if you know for a fact that your bond is set for auto increase coverage, then please check the box for number 3. If you aren't sure, then leave it blank. 4 through 5, every year we ask who is going to electronically sign that Form 5500 to be filed. We're asking for their name and their email address. And so that's what that is. So if it's different from the primary contact, it's different, or it's a trustee, we need that person's information. Same with number 6. All right, we're doing good on time. Employee census. This is step 9. This is what it looks like. This is for a plan that has not ever provided any kind of employee census to Nova yet. So brand new plan, they've never given us anything, it's blank. If you have given us census from a prior year, then you will see the names, socials, date of birth, date of hire from that prior year in here. It will not be blank. We ask that you don't do manual entry, but some people do because you have 5 or less employees in your company, and it's just easier for you to go in and do that. So you can hit add here to add any employees. You can hit delete to remove anybody who was terminated in a prior year. So if they terminated in the year that we're working on, in this case 2024, don't delete them. We still need their data. But if they terminated in 2022 and they're still listed here, then you can hit delete, okay? Highlight them and hit delete. But if you need to add anybody, click add, and then add here. Don't forget to scroll down because there's a lot more fields to get through to add information on as applicable to your plan and to that employee. Again, this can be tedious, so we do suggest that you only do manual entry if you have just 5 or fewer employees. Otherwise, we ask you to export the census template in the Excel format. So you would click, if I were to go back to this screen over here, you have export. So you click export, and it'll give you 2 types of Excel depending on which Windows version you're using, and you pick which one works and save that file to a directory within your computer. Once you've saved that file, you open it up, you'll notice there are 2 worksheets here. One for employees, one with instructions. Do not delete either worksheet. Do not rename either worksheet. Do not move one worksheet around for the other. If you do that, it will not let you re-import this completed file into the portal, okay? So please do not change anything on these and how it's structured from just the initial structure of it. Again, we need all employees who receive W-2 wages in the year being requested, all owners who receive Partnership K-1 or Schedule C income in the year requested, any employees who terminated in the year requested that receive W-2 wages. All of those people we need on the census. We also need active employees who had no compensation in the year requested on the census. So let's say I'm an employee of Nova. I'm not terminated, but I didn't receive any compensation for 2024 because I was on medical leave or I was on military leave or something like that. They still need to be listed on the census, but add a note for your account manager. Lisa Dielman was on military leave all year, but she's still active. That way they know why there's no compensation for this person and they don't have to come back and ask you, okay? We do have this online instruction guide for step-by-step instructions on each of the fields within the census. So it's very similar to this instruction, but it gives it a little more detail, actually a lot more details on some of the information than just this worksheet can give you. So please utilize our guide here for questions on what to put in certain fields if you aren't sure. So here's just an example of some of the column headings. Again, once you're in the worksheet, do not change column headings. Do not move columns around. Do not delete columns, do not add columns. It has to still be exactly how it is situated, or else you cannot re-import into the system. We do need all of this date data as applicable. So of course we need the date of birth, original date of hire, but if you have a rehired person, we need their original date of hire, their new date of rehire, and their most recent date of separation prior to this rehire date, or if it's in the same year, the termination within the same year. So, so if a person has been rehired, please make sure that you give us original date of hire, date of separation, and date of rehire, okay? And if separation is due to death, disability, or retirement, please mark Y for yes on there. When you are going to save the census file, once it's been imported again, if you get a warning that a termination date is prior to the current plan year, you can ignore that. As long as that termination date is correct, like say I was hired in 2021, I left the company in 2023 and I rehired in 2024. It's going to give a warning because this date of separation is in 2023, but we're working on the 2024 census. That's okay. Leave it there. It is just a warning. It just for you to, double check yourself. But if that is the correct information and that is an accurate date, leave it there. We need that information. It'll still let you save it, even if it gives you that warning. Okay. All right, going back to what we talked about earlier with job classification. So this is where I had mentioned to list if they're part-time, seasonal, temporary. Let's say your plan excludes interns or hourly employees, then go ahead and list that under job classification as well. If your company excludes certain divisions from participation, then list those divisions here because we're going to need to know that so we can know that these employees with this division are excluded from participation in the plan. And then excluded employee, you would want to mark a Y there. And then that way we can match that Y under excluded employee. Y is for yes if they're excluded. It automatically defaults to a no if you leave it blank. It'll automatically default to a no, so you don't have to do that. So if you have excluded employees, because it's written in your plan document, go ahead and mark Y here, and then under job classification or division, put the wording of how to tell, their exclusion based on the document. All right. Excluded compensations. Your plan document will show which compensations are excluded in determining the contribution amounts for the employees who are participating in the plan. Here's where you can find it if you aren't sure and you just want to double check yourself. And if you do have any of these types of exclusions, we do need that information listed on the census. We do need your gross compensation of the employees, so the true gross compensation they were paid, but then we also need separated out these excluded compensations based on what is excluded in your document, okay? So if your document excludes bonus, that bonus amount should be included in your gross compensation, but then we just want just the bonus amount listed under the bonus column. True severance, not just the final paycheck that they're paid after they're terminated, but true severance compensation should always be listed under the severance compensation column because that is always excluded. It doesn't have to be listed in the document because that is a overarching regulation for retirement plans. True severance compensation can never be included in compensation for plan purposes for calculating contributions. So always list that here. List it under gross compensation, but also list out just the severance part here. If gross and severance equal the same thing, that is acceptable. That is very acceptable. We also have columns for ownership and officers. So those ownership percentage, please list the actual percentage, whether it's 10, 10.5, whatever. If they are an officer, It automatically defaults to a no if it's left blank. So for any people who are officers, for any employees who are officers, just enter a Y in that field for that person. That way we want the census file to match what y'all put in the prior steps, right? In step 3, I think. So we just want to make sure that the census data is matching what you put in step 3 as well. We will also do a check, make sure they match, but it helps if you make sure they match too on your end, so we don't have to ask questions. Employer contribution columns. All right, so we often get questions about this and confusion. So under Safe Harbor contribution, if your plan utilizes Safe Harbor match, Safe Harbor non-elective, Safe Harbor QACA match, any of those contributions should be listed in the contribution column. I mean the Safe Harbor contribution column. We will know what type it is. There's just the one column for any of those 3. So we will know on our end what type it is, whether it's the match, the non-elective, or the QACA. But if you have any of those 3, it should be listed under the Safe Harbor contribution, the employer part. The employer contribution column over here, if you pre-fund any profit sharing contributions during the year, it should be listed in that column. If your company pays Davis-Bacon prevailing wage contributions, it should be listed in that column as well. Okay. All right. This is repetitive, but I cannot stress it enough. If the company pays the owners through a Schedule C earnings or partnership K-1 earnings, we need that information. We cannot move forward with our testing and our employer contribution allocations without that data. All right, so as soon as it's available, we need copies of those draft forms, whether it's a draft or a final. Hopefully it's a draft if you're asking us for an employer contribution allocation, but we need those forms as soon as they are available from the CPA. Okay, so we cannot do our part until we have that data. And even if you give us the employee census data for all the other employees, but we are missing that K-1 or Schedule C for the owners, you will continue to get reminder emails that we are still missing census data, because this is considered census data because it's for the owners. We understand that sometimes these aren't available till much later in the year. You'll still get email reminders. And once you do have these files available, please send them to your NOVA account manager through the Secure File Exchange tab of the Plan Sponsor Link portal. And I'll show you that in another slide. Once you have your census file filled out and completed with that template, save it in your computer, of course, log back into the Plan Sponsor Link portal website, log back into the project, so that year-end data collection project, go to the employee step 9 and then click import. Then it'll prompt you to browse for your saved file within your computer and it'll upload it. Okay. Warnings are okay. It will accept warnings. It will not accept errors. If there is an error, you have to fix the errors before it'll successfully import. If you have warnings and you've checked the warnings and the data is accurate and correct, ignore them. Hit save and move on, okay? If for some reason you're having a really hard time importing your census file, you just can't get it, you don't know what's wrong, you're getting frustrated, send that file to your NOVA account manager, okay? You can hit, for step 9, you can hit save, and it'll say, are you sure you want to save? You don't have census data in here, it's incomplete. You can click skip this step, and it'll save that step so that you can then close out that and send the census file to your NOVA account manager, okay? So, to do that, when you're logged into your portal, you'll see this tab that says Secure File Exchange, and you'll go to that tab and you'll click on New Exchange. It tells you to browse for the file that you want to upload. It has a drop down of all of the NOVA employees, so you can find your NOVA account manager name. For message, 2024 census file, 2024 K1, 2024 Schedule C, whatever it is that your account manager needs to finish what we need to do for testing, just do a brief little description. Make sure you find your plan and hit send. It'll automatically send an email to your Nova account manager that this file's been uploaded for them to go in and download. So you don't also have to email your Nova account manager. It all happens automatically here. So go ahead and do that for any secure data that you need to send to your account manager, whether it has to do with this census data collection, distribution, well, not distributions, but any kind of data throughout the year that we request or that you think we need. You can send it securely to Nova this way. If you have distribution forms or loan request forms, use the Secure File Exchange to send it not to your Nova account manager. On the drop down, there is an option for Nova distributions, and that is where you will send it. It'll go directly to them. They'll immediately log it into the system, and that way it'll get done as soon as possible. Once everything looks good for all 9 steps, you will have check marks, green check marks for all 9 steps. Then you click on sign and submit to approve it. Fill out this information. It requires your name and your email address and hit submit. Then you will be done on your end and it comes to your Nova account manager. If you have outside assets, meaning assets are held at a brokerage firm rather than a main record keeper, like an online-based record keeper, so you use Bank of Mellon, New York, you use Charles Schwab, you use Vanguard brokerage firms. If Nova is not set up to receive duplicate statements, whether it's monthly or quarterly, please set us up. Your Nova account manager can give you that information to provide to your brokerage firm to get us set up to receive duplicate statements. And until those duplicate statements are set up, please provide those statements to Nova through our Secure File Exchange. So that's another way that you can use this portal tab to help provide information to us. Once we've done the compliance testing, we then do the Form 5500, the informational tax form that has to be filed. And we cannot complete that without the statements for 2024 for every account that has funds in it for 2024. So all the steps are done. You've completed the process. It comes to Nova and we review all the data and it's awesome. If you, 2 things. If you want to download a copy of your completed version, excuse me, for your files, which we highly recommend you do. Once you're done, you can go to this data collection tab up here and you will find your data collection report from that year and you can click on report and download it and save it on your computer. And what you see is every single step has its own worksheet. So you can actually see on their own worksheet what you provide to us, which is wonderful. And I highly recommend that every time you complete a year-end data collection year of information and you've submitted it to Nova, you go in and you download the report. This is also very useful for if you did the census data collection for Nova for 2023 for the prior year. You can download a copy of that and see what you did, see what kind of answers you answered, see what columns you filled out on the employee field worksheet, just to give you an idea of what was done last year. And that way it'll help you to kind of jog your memory on what's needed this year. So that's also a good idea of reference to look at from the prior year if you did submit with Nova the prior year. All right. Nova has a couple of ways to also help you complete the census data. New this year is NovaLink, and it can be used for clients that use any of these payroll providers. They are online payroll providers. Right now it's just these ones, and we are constantly working on adding new payroll online providers to our NovaLink. But if you utilize one of these payroll providers, you can set it up so that your payroll provider and NovaLink can communicate on a read-only basis and we can pull census data down and put it into our template for you. Sometimes we cannot pull all data because we just don't have that information. We don't have the way to do that because of the read-only access, but we can get a lot of data, most of it, through this way. And that way it saves you time. You can get it set up initially, and then we can go in and pull that data for you from your payroll provider. Again, it is read-only access. We cannot change anything. So if you're interested, if you haven't already been signed up to do it, if you are interested in it, please contact your Nova account manager directly. It takes about 2 weeks to implement, depending on how quickly you turn around each step. And if you sign up within the next week or two and start moving through the steps, then you can get it set up so that Nova can get this 2024 census data for you, so you don't have to do it. If you can still sign up after January, we just won't guarantee that we can prepare the 2024 census by our census deadline that we provide to you. I mean, we could still get the census, it just won't be by our deadline. So the sooner you sign up, the better. There is some more information if you click on this link, taking you to Nova Link. There is some more information on our website with an FAQ on Nova Link. All right, if you have a payroll provider that is not one of these, but still has online access, you could sign up with our sister company, AFS 316, and they can grab that census information and prepare the census data for Nova on your behalf. They will have access to your payroll provider and read only, okay? They cannot change anything in your payroll system. They will grab that data from your payroll provider and import it into our census template for Nova. They'll upload it to Nova's plansponsorlink.com website for you. There is a cost on this. There's a cost for Nova Link. It's $300 a year. This AFS cost is a little more expensive, but if you have a really large plan with a payroll provider that's online, that's not one of the ones that can be with Nova Link, this could save you a lot of money because it's saving you time. AFS engagement agreement must be signed by January 15th, which I realize is tomorrow, in order for them to complete the 2024 calendar year plan year census. So if you are interested, please contact this email ASAP. But you can still sign up after January 15th for next year, okay? So those are some good resources to utilize. We've already gone over these, so I'm just going to leave that up and y'all can read it. It's also in the slide handout. But I'm going to start looking at questions. So one of the questions we got is, for the step on relatives, which I believe is step 4, for family relations to owners, we do only need, the question is for relatives, you only need relatives of owners, not officers. Is that correct? And yes, that is correct. We only want family relationships of owners. Officers, that doesn't count. If there are officers that are not owners, we don't need any relations of those people. So step 7 says, this question says, step 7, question 4, do you contribute a discretionary match throughout the year? Is this different than our 3% employer match that is set in our employee-employer policy? This is a weekly match to our employee deferrals. So that is exactly what we are wanting. So if you have a company policy that you have told your employees that if you contribute this much, we will match you this much, that is what we want. So we want, if you contribute throughout the year, yes, and we want that formula. You do 3% match, so dollar for dollar up to 3%. That is exactly what we would want in that question. It's a great question. So should siblings of owners also be included in family relationships? No. Literally the only family relationships that need to be included are the ones that I put in this handout. So children, spouse, parent, grandparent. Now, if there are siblings that are employees and they have the same last name or surname as an owner, um, please put a note. So click on note up here and put, you know, um, Joe Smith is the brother of owner Lisa Smith, so that the Nova account manager will not go back and ask you because they have the same last name. So they don't have to be listed in step 4 necessarily, but it is best for us to know. So if there are family relations to an owner with the same last name, even if they're not a child, a spouse, parent, or grandparent, we do ask you to provide notes. So great question. Thank you. For payroll cycle, does it matter that we switched from semi-monthly to bi-weekly mid-year? No, we want the one that is most current. So if mid 2024 y'all switch from semi-monthly to bi-weekly, we want the bi-weekly because it's using that information moving forward on any new loan requests. So yes, great question. Thank you. So we want the most recent payroll cycle frequency on that. All right. Well, again, I hope this was very helpful for you. If you do have any additional questions pertaining to your plan exactly, please contact your Nova account manager and they will definitely assist you. You do have the slides on this presentation, and this presentation is being recorded and will be posted to our Nova YouTube website today or in the morning. So please make sure to go back and utilize our Nova YouTube website, whether it's for this webinar or some prior ones, because we have really great ones out there that are very informative on different aspects of administering a 401k plan. So thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you all have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Everybody have a great day.